Alright guys, time to grab here back again today. Haven't enjoyed your day so far, and today we're going to talk about the potential of FormaL, the Chicago Huntsmen, and moving to Texas. This was a big storyline at the end of the Modern Warfare season, the fact that FormaL wanted to stay in California. Even though the online environment was not favourable for California, we saw a number of discussions from the Paris Legion guys, Optic Gaming Los Angeles of course, at the disadvantage they felt they were on due to the server locations that the CDL provided for the online Modern Warfare season. FormaL managed to make it work from Southern California, but at the same time, it's got to be said that compared to a guy like Kenny, for example, when he did come over to Texas for the World Championship, he was dropping absolute bombs on the map. And if FormaL had been in Texas the entire time, maybe that would have helped, well, the Chicago Huntsmen perform better at the World Championships, even though they still had a pretty damn decent showing. The question is, going into next season, how many LANs are we going to have? If the season is still majority online, as it maybe it will be right now, but I'm hearing that more and more LANs are in the planning over the coming weeks. So definitely, we may have several LAN events next season, but I still think part of it is going to be online. And if that is the case, I'm sure that Hector and the Chicago Huntsmen are pushing for FormaL to be in the best possible geolocation possible, even though FormaL may be not so convinced. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you enjoy it, subscribe if you are new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for doing that. So as this tweet that came out in 2050 that I just went and found, I'm never living anywhere else than Southern California. And this tweet from February as well, Maniac says, nice weather just brings out good energy. FormaL says, facts, one of my favorite things about Cali. If I was waking up at 9 AM to raid, I wouldn't even be getting onto Scrim. So definitely liked it over in California, there's no doubt about that. This came out a few weeks ago then, well actually before the World Championships on the 26th of August, from Hector on the NRG Duo podcast. FormaL doesn't want to travel due to COVID, of course, and doesn't want to fly private. He'll be playing at Championship weekend from the West Coast. So, well, I'll just roll the clip.
Fight. Obviously, we had FormaL out on the West Coast still. He's super adamant about not traveling during COVID, and, you know, obviously you can't force him. As much as I want to force him, as much as I want to be like, I'm fucking moved down here, I'm going to go get you. As much as you and I have offered to fucking get a private jet to get him down here, he's still like, nah, private jets crash more than this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, okay. Any other scenario, any other situation, there would be zero chance that I wouldn't have him here already. But because of the pandemic and health and all that, like, we don't fucking know, right? Like, we don't know what his family medical history's like. We don't know who he lives with, none of this. So we're like, all right, fuck it, whatever.
So we discussed how before the World Championship, FormaL was refusing this private jet. I mean, Hector, I think, even said like he offered to just drive him down all the way there to Texas. But, you know, FormaL has his issues with traveling, and, well, that's certainly fair enough. But at the same time, going into a new season now, of course, they did go to the World Championships. They came third in the end. FormaL, I mean, of course, like, has been considered like probably a top 5, top 6 player of all time in Call of Duty. One of the greatest assault rifles to ever grace the game. And, well, probably had the single best event performance at all time at Infinite Warfare World Championships, like a 1.4 KD over the course of event. It was absolutely remarkable, and winning that event, of course. The last couple of seasons has been, well, I suppose more subdued compared to what we expect to see out of him. He hasn't been dropping 1.3s, been dropping more like 1.1s, but, you know, at the same time, still a very respectable assault rifle, and still won a few events with the Chicago Huntsmen last season, even when it did go to online, and he had the disadvantage from playing from California, as we'll look at in a second. The other players, though, and most of the players in the league, that's why Dallas Empire, a lot of people call them onliners or whatever, and well, people were kind of annoyed at the Florida Mutineers, because the Florida Mutineers had like the Bermuda Triangle that people described it as, that they had the players separated in such a way that most of the server locations that the teams were playing on in the online arena were beneficial for one, if not more, of the guys on Florida, whereas a team like Optic Gaming Los Angeles, based out of California, were largely very distant from a number of the servers, because I think there was like a Cali server or like a Nevada server, but pretty much everyone would just veto that one, because each team got the opportunity to veto a server, so they weren't playing on a server that was in the backyard of their opponent. The problem is, most of the servers were around like the Texas region, and there was a lot of discussion from Slasher, for example, how they could veto like Texas 1, but then there was just like a Texas 2 host. So if you're playing the Dallas Empire, what are you meant to do, right? Are you meant to veto the Texas hosts so that you get to like a host that's like way in the northeast, and then you're playing like on 150 ping, whereas Dallas are playing on like 70 ping, or do you just play on a Texas host and play on 70 ping, whereas they're basically playing on 0. So, you know, either way, it's not great, because most of the servers seem to be based around Texas, and, well, that's why Dallas Empire were called onliners for a time, and I think against Paris Legion especially, there was one tourney that Paris, I think it was the London Home Series, Paris Legion did very well in. They made it to the Grand Finals, but the 2 series they lost that event were to Dallas Empire smoking them both times, and some of the discussion was Paris were based in California, Dallas were based in, well, Texas, and it made the server situation very, very challenging indeed. Obviously, there was much more to Dallas's brilliance at the end of the season than just the server locations or whatever, but a lot of players and a lot of teams were looking to move to Texas to get this kind of advantage, right? And most of the Chicago Huntsmen guys did move down to like the Hex quarters. Scump, Arcides, Envoy, Pristini, I believe, were all there at a time, but FormaL was kind of the odd man out. So I'll just share this clip that hastily pointed out to me yesterday. FormaL kind of hinting here on Scump's stream that it's possible he may be moving down to Texas, but he doesn't seem super convinced as yet.
Matt, when are you getting your PC stuff?
When I fucking move to Texas. I'm not gonna get one now and fucking bring 2 PCs.
So, when you moving to Texas?
So I don't know, I might just not.
So FormaL discussing how he doesn't want to bring like 2 PCs down to Texas or whatever, and as I say, most of the guys now are based out of Texas, most of the Call of Duty pros, that seems to be the way to go, and well, of course, the CDL may be looking to upgrade their server locations. That's been a big discussion throughout the latter half of the Modern Warfare season. Then again though, if Texas is currently in the advantage, even if they do add some other server locations, Texas is probably still the best place to be, and we saw it especially, as I mentioned, with Kenny going from having a pretty underwhelming Modern Warfare season to going to the World Championships and dropping like 1.4s every single map for the first couple of series on that new host, and well, a similar effect really was seen with Slasher. So yeah, pretty remarkable. This is some of the discussion that we had back in July now. I mean, as Slasher says, 60 Hz 100 ping hosts aren't any better, bro. Trust me, the situation from Cali is just as bad in the Pro League. West Coast is chalked, move ASAP. And as you could see from the clip much earlier, that's effectively what Hector was saying to FormaL, right? Like, please move, I'll do anything to get you to move, I'll pay you for a private jet or whatever. But you know, it's difficult to force your players to do anything with the pandemic going on. But well, it happened eventually for Slasher and Co getting down there for the World Championship, and that did have an effect on their run. Of course, they did end up coming top 6. They played the Huntsmen to a game 5 round 11, 1 versus 1, Envoy versus TJ, I'm sure you guys remember. And if OGLA had have won that, would they have beaten the Ravens? Very possibly. Would they have beaten FaZe? I mean, maybe not, but we could have seen a placements reversed, I suppose, in this situation. And OGLA, starting from the very last place, had a very good run, right? And it does, well, ask the question, if this season had been on LAN, or if they'd have been in Texas the entire time, what could they have achieved this season, potentially, if they were starting from the winner's bracket at Champs? They could have, well, made their run a hell of a lot more easy. Some more discussions here from Slasher as well back in June. Doug, as of right now with the server locations, I have to play a Texas team on a Texas host, or play on like 100+ ping. It's absolute BS, and I mentioned it over a month ago. Just look at the server locations they have, and look how screwed over West Coast players are. So lots of discussion really this season about how being in the West Coast is not the place to be. FormaL, of course, loves being there, but is it time for FormaL to just kind of get on with it, right, and move down to Texas like the rest of the guys? And well, not only is that potentially beneficial for the online events they're going to play, if there are lands as well, like building the team chemistry can be pretty important, like actually being there in person in the Hex quarters or whatever, could be beneficial to FormaL as well. So definitely some questions. I'm sure he has his reservations, but definitely hinting in that clip that we looked at that, well, it's very possible that he does make it to Texas over the coming months before the start of the new season, and that would be a pretty good timing, to be fair, having all the guys there in the best possible server locations for what online events we may have at the start of the next season, before hopefully getting into lands a few months in, especially towards the World Championship, where hopefully we don't have to talk about server locations and ping ever again on this channel. Just to finish off the video, I thought I'd finish out with a couple of cool little bits of content. This was by Attach. Yesterday he did this first episode of Stay Attached, talked with Dashy on a few different things, so cool to see some more content coming out of the likes of Attach. He also talked about some other options here of getting people on. Silly replied, hit me up, we can talk about how you took my job. Of course, Silly leaving the Minnesota Rocker, not necessarily of his own accord, right? And well, Attach now coming in to that team with Attach, Priest, Major Maniac, and Accuracy as it stands right now. So cool to see this type of content coming out of Attach. Definitely keeping my eyes tuned on these ones too, well, here if there's anything spicy that happens to be said. And some entertaining discussion as well about the boots on the ground stuff. So Paris, it says, who remembers what it was like to spawn out, have to fight guys on God Eddies without broken mechanics, and getting EMP'd, which forces you to communicate? Wow, great times. I guess he's talking about Black Ops 2 back here with, you know, the EMPs were kind of all over the place. They were very strong. It completely got rid of your HUD. Blaz then says, respect to all of that, but running EMPs is just boring. And nah, you would run Hardwired, which would nullify the effect and it wouldn't show a hit marker. So Hardwired was like a really, really cool perk, to be honest, back in Black Ops 2, where a counter UAV or an EMP wouldn't affect your screen. But of course, if you do run Hardwired, you effectively still have to run Toughness, because it was the best perk in the game. So you kind of need like perk 2 Greed or whatever whatever. And, well, as you say, like, that's the thing. You would have the meta game. Not everyone is going to run EMPs. It was a trade-off game, and trophies are important too. It required a lot of thinking. And as X then says, of course, looking to get back into it for boots on the ground back in 2020. Shush, don't say the T word for thinking. People don't know what that means nowadays. So, yeah, we'll have to see if these guys get on a team. It'd be exciting to see. I'd love to see it, but, yeah, maybe it's somewhat unlikely. But then again, X was dropping 74 in the throwback tournament on Modern Warfare 2. Maybe it is time to get picked up once again into the Pro League. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for making it this far. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you are new, and I will see you next time.